Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Yeshi Chansong. Here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Tuesday, the 16th of March. India widens coronavirus curbs as infections top 20,000 for 6th day. Pakistan orchestrating proxy war promoting terrorism in Kashmir, activist tells UN. And policemen, firemen among over 400 Myanmar nationals seeking shelter in India. And now for all the details. India has expanded coronavirus curbs in parts of the country as it continued to report more than 20,000 infections for the 6th straight day on Tuesday, after a relatively controlled January and February. The government has blamed crowding and a general reluctance to wear masks for the spike.
India reported 24,492 new coronavirus cases on Tuesday, the 6th straight day of more than 20,000 infections, as curbs to try to stop the spread of COVID-19 were expanded in parts of the country that have recorded a surge. Total cases in India have now risen to 11.41 million, with 158,856 deaths reported so far. The government has blamed crowding and a general reluctance to wear masks for the spike, ruling out mutations of the virus as a factor, unlike in the West. India's worst affected state, Maharashtra, on Monday ordered cinemas, hotels and restaurants to limit guests to half of capacity until the end of the month. Weddings and other social events will also have limited attendance. Maharashtra has also locked down some districts and cities, including Nagpur and Pune.
We are going to get, maybe another waves the way it is going. I hope we don't get it. But it's a time we have to introspect and we have to be strict. We have to enforce them some strictness. The way the gathering has increased from 50 to 200 and even more than that, and a lot of functions and parties going on. This is not a good sign and this is not a good trend.
Meanwhile, India's western Gujarat state has also decided to not allow fans into the world's biggest cricket stadium, hosting international matches between India and England, after seeing a spurt in cases. The initial matches were attended by tens of thousands of people, leading to widespread criticism on social media. India has vaccinated nearly 26 million people since beginning its inoculation campaign in mid-January. The country aims to vaccinate 300 million of its 1.35 billion people by August.
Bank strike in parts of India entered day 2 as employees protested against the government's policy to privatise more public sector lenders. Bank services like cash withdrawals continue to hit general public.
Bank employees across India held strike for a second day on Tuesday to condemn privatization of 2 public sector banks. Protesters in Indian capital New Delhi, northern Lucknow and Panchkula cities staged protests, carried banner posters and raised slogans as they opposed the proposal of the federal government to privatize 2 banks. People in eastern Siliguri city said they were facing problems in withdrawing cash as banking operations were hit.
और आज ये सरकार इनको बंद करने में तुली हुई है, प्राइवेट हाथों में देने के तुली हुई है। ये प्राइवेट हाथों में देके बीएस हमारा देश का पैसा सारा डिविडेंड के फॉर्म में सारा बाहर देश में चला जाएगा। हमारा देश का क्या कहते हैं जो रेवेन्यू है बाहर देशों में जाएगा, वो हमें बर्दाश्त नहीं है।
हम लोग प्राइवेटाइजेशन के खिलाफ एकत्र हुए हैं और इसका विरोध करते रहेंगे। प्राइवेटाइजेशन से खाली बैंक वालों को नुकसान नहीं, कस्टमर को भी ज़्यादा नुकसान है।
As part of the disinvestment plan, Indian Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman had announced the privatization of 2 public sector banks in the federal budget of 2021. The strike was called after talks between the United Forum of Bank Unions and government representatives failed to reach a conclusion, said media reports.
In news from Pakistan, a remote-controlled bomb exploded on Monday night in Pakistan's city of Karachi, killing a paramilitary soldier and injuring 8 other people. Separatist insurgents from the Baloch Liberation Army claimed responsibility for the blast.
A bomb targeting a military vehicle exploded in Pakistan's Karachi city on Monday night, killing at least one paramilitary soldier and injuring 8 other people. A senior police officer said the initial investigation suggested an explosive rigged motorcycle was used in the attack and the device was detonated remotely. Separatist insurgents from the Baloch Liberation Army claimed the responsibility for the blast in a statement shared with international news organization Reuters. The Baloch Liberation Army has been fighting an insurgency in the southwestern province of Balochistan, targeting security forces and infrastructure and mineral extraction projects that the militants say exploit the region at the expense of locals.
Moving on, Director of the European Foundation for South Asian Studies, Junaid Qureshi, told the United Nations on Monday that thousands of Kashmiris have died in a proxy war orchestrated by Pakistan and continue to suffer due to terror groups patronized by the Pakistani military establishment. He urged the world body to intervene and hold Islamabad accountable for its actions.
Junaid Qureshi, Director of the European Foundation for South Asian Studies, during the ongoing 46th UNHRC session in Geneva on Monday said that thousands of Kashmiris have died in a proxy war orchestrated by Pakistan, and they continue to suffer due to terrorist groups patronized by the Pakistani military establishment. Qureshi, who is himself a Kashmiri, said that last month on Pakistan's so-called Kashmir Solidarity Day, Prime Minister Imran Khan said that Pakistan would be willing to give Kashmiris the right to independence. This misleading statement aimed at deceiving the international community needs to be put into perspective, he said.
It was Pakistan that invaded and divided my homeland in 1947, and in 1949 it literally shut the door to independence for us Kashmiris. Next, in 1989, it unleashed a policy of death and destruction by exporting terrorism into the Kashmir Valley. To this day, the Pakistani military establishment continues to patronize dozens of terrorist groups.
Qureshi highlighted Pakistan continues to provide support to UN-designated terrorist organizations in the region for its proxy war. He said unless PM Imran Khan is held accountable for his words and pressed to give independence to illegally occupied Pakistan-administered Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan, which are integral parts of India's Jammu and Kashmir, the trivialization of the Kashmir issue will only be further encouraged.
In news from Afghanistan, U.S. Special Envoy Zalmay Khalilzad will attend Afghan peace conference hosted by Russia in Moscow this week. On Monday, Khalilzad was back in Kabul after meeting Taliban in Qatar, where he met Afghan leaders including President Ashraf Ghani and Chairman of the High Council for National Reconciliation, Abdullah, and discussed the next steps in the peace process. After meeting the Taliban in Qatar, U.S. Special Envoy Zalmay Khalilzad was back in Kabul on Monday, where he met Afghan leaders including President Ashraf Ghani and Abdullah, head of the High Council for National Reconciliation. The presidential palace said that Khalilzad briefed Ghani on his recent trips and activities and both discussed the next steps in the peace process. Taking to Twitter, Abdullah said, "We reiterated our call for a political settlement and acceleration of the peace efforts." On Thursday, the State Department said that Khalilzad plans to attend a Thursday's conference in Moscow on accelerating the Afghanistan peace process. The Taliban and the government of Afghan President Ghani have agreed to attend the conference. The meeting is one of a series of international gatherings called to try to break an impasse in talks in Doha between the Taliban and a delegation that includes government officials on a political settlement to the decades of war. The United States faces a May 1 deadline to withdraw its remaining troops from Afghanistan under a February 2020 deal with the Taliban. The United States this month floated a proposed peace accord that would replace the Ghani administration with an interim government to which the Taliban and the government would name members and establish a nationwide ceasefire. Ghani has rejected the idea, saying elections could decide a change in government. The Taliban oppose a ceasefire and the holding of elections. Moving on to news from Nepal. A 16-member expedition team, including Bahraini prince, has arrived in Nepal to attempt the Everest summit as the world's tallest peak reopened a year after closing due to coronavirus pandemic. A team of climbers, including Bahraini Prince Mohammed Hamad Mohammed Al Khalifa, arrived in Nepal on Monday evening to scale Mount Everest as the world's tallest peak reopened a year after closing due to the coronavirus pandemic. The team of 16 from Bahrain and Britain is the first international group to arrive in Kathmandu in the hope of climbing the 8,849-meter mountain.
We are all excited, me and the whole team. We've been waiting for this moment, and we're very excited that the season has started. And hopefully soon with the training, we're going to reach to the summit and raise the Bahraini flag over there.
Nepal closed its mountains in March last year as part of tight measures to control the coronavirus, which has infected 275,310 people and caused 3,014 deaths nationally so far. More than 300 foreign climbers were likely to attempt the ascent in the peak climbing season beginning in April, compared with a record 381 climbers who attempted the famed summit in the same period in 2019. As Myanmar's military government continues an increasingly brutal crackdown on protesters, citizens are fleeing into neighbouring India. Ko, a local fire department official from Myanmar's Chin state that borders India, said he and his colleagues joined the civil disobedience movement after police ordered them to use their fire truck to disperse protesters. Ko said he hid in a forested area of Chin state with around 30 others. On March 3, Myanmar security forces discovered their hideout, forcing him to flee the country, leaving behind his wife and 4 children. Reports suggest that more than 400 people from Myanmar, many of them policemen, have crossed into neighbouring India since late February. India's federal government has ordered local authorities to stop the influx, but the mountain terrain is porous and hard to patrol. Around 140 people have died so far and thousands detained in Myanmar since the February 1 military coup. Protesters continue to take to the streets in defiance of the authorities, who have used rubber bullets, tear gas and live ammunition to stop them. In a bid to revive the traditional art form of calligraphy in India's northern Jammu and Kashmir, a young calligraphy teacher has opened his own calligraphy institute in Baramulla district. Have a look.
Malik Mukhtar, a young teacher in India's Jammu and Kashmir, is trying to revive the centuries-old art of calligraphy in the Kashmir Valley by starting a calligraphy institute. Hailing from Patan town of Baramulla district, the 20-year-old wants to popularize the art of calligraphy amongst the school students in the valley.
मैंने सोचा क्यों ना बच्चों को एक अलग स्टाइल से इसकी जानिब राग़िब करूं। मैं अब डिफरेंट स्टाइल्स के साथ इन बच्चों को लिखना सिखाता हूं ताकि वो इसकी तरफ राग़िब हो जाए। जब वो इसकी तरफ राग़िब हो जाएंगे, मैं साथ ही साथ उनकी जो मेन लिखाई है, जिस तरह वो एग्ज़ाम में लिखते हैं, वो भी उनकी ठीक करता हूं।
हमने बहुत कुछ सीखा है यहाँ पे। हैंड राइटिंग जो है मेरी बहुत इम्प्रूव हो गई है 15 दिनों में। पहले तो मुझे लगा था कि मुझे 1 साल लगेगा हैंड राइटिंग अपनी इम्प्रूव करने में, लेकिन यहाँ पे 15 दिनों में अपना इतना इम्प्रूवमेंट देखकर मुझे अब लग रहा है कि बस अब 2-3 दिन लगेंगे और मेरी हैंड राइटिंग फुली इम्प्रूव होने में।
Calligraphy, which is known as Khushnavishi in Urdu, was popular all over the world, especially in Islamic countries and different states of India, including Hyderabad, Lucknow and Mumbai. According to calligraphy teachers, technology has overpowered the traditional art form of Kashmir, but now the interest in the art is reviving.
Well, that's all we have for you from South Asia this evening. Now, our viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook.com/AsAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter @AsAsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We will see you same time tomorrow. Good night.